Have you ever made a mosaic? My brother and my mom and I used to make them all the time when we were little. We would take stepping stones or garden ornaments and cover them with tiles and pieces of colored glass to make shapes and patterns. And when I think about the theme of the Anointed One in Scripture, it reminds me of a mosaic. Because as we move throughout the Old Testament, it's like piece by piece, the image of the Anointed One, of this ultimate Messiah that Israel is waiting for. It's like piece by piece it becomes clearer and clearer over time. Because as we move throughout the Old Testament, when God's people are at their best, they are foreshadowing this perfect human who will always walk in the ways of the Lord. And so when we think about David's story, he is adding a lot of tiles to our mosaic. We spend the most time with David out of any Old Testament figure. The most time. And David is an anointed one, right? So he's adding a lot of tiles to our mosaic. And so I'd encourage you this week as you read to think about, when is David at his best? When is he walking in step with the Lord? And what does David have to tell me about who this anointed one, this Messiah is? How does he add to the silhouette to our mosaic that we're making? Here's what I'm learning this week. I think when David comes on the scene, we start with this picture of a very victorious anointed one, right? He's the giant slayer who goes on to win all of these battles, not just against Goliath, but against the Philistines. But here in the wilderness, we see a very different David. Here in the wilderness, David is afraid. He's dependent on God. He's suffering. And we see him looking to God for guidance. And hearing not that what he's supposed to do is go crush his enemy. Right? God doesn't tell him to go take vengeance on Saul. Today we read for the second time that David has been handed this perfect opportunity to get rid of Saul and end this cat and mouse game that they've been playing. And yet for the second time, David believes that what is the right and godly thing to do is to spare Saul's life and show love to him instead, to seek Saul's well-being. And so what David is adding to our mosaic is that this anointed one that we are waiting for, the perfect anointed one that the Old Testament is looking forward to, is both a victorious king who is going to crush the head of the serpent, just like David crushed Goliath, but is also going to suffer. He's going to be a suffering servant who will endure pain and humiliation and will have to trust God that as he shows his enemies love instead of vengeance, that God will take care of bringing about his exaltation and deliverance and vindication. And doesn't that sound a whole lot like Jesus? Right? We're getting a lot of David tiles added to this picture of the Messiah. He's pointing forward into the future and showing us a glimpse of what Jesus will be like, right? We see from the Gospels that the cross is not the moment of ultimate defeat, but of ultimate victory, where Jesus, through his suffering, claims victory for all of us. And so David shows us that this anointed one, that Jesus is going to be both king and suffering servant, and that victory comes through suffering. And so as you think about David and Jesus and about the way of the anointed one, where is this landing for you? Because you probably don't have a Saul in your life who's hunting you down. I hope you don't. But I would wager that all of us have people that we just struggle with. Coworkers you dislike, family members who have been hurting your feelings, people you're in conflict with, people on social media or in culture that just rub you the wrong way, that you disagree with, you don't understand, or you feel like they misunderstand you. Who is the Saul in your life? And if the way of the Anointed One truly is that victory comes through suffering, that humiliation leads to exaltation, that glory comes on the heels of suffering, what does it look like for you to show the Saul in your life? Suffering love. N.T. Wright says this: the call of the gospel is for the church to implement the victory of God in the world through suffering love. If that's true, if that is the call of the church, to bring the victory of God through suffering love, what's a small step you can take in that direction today? Take care, friends.